I'm Carl Piester. For more than 3 decades, I've worked with leaders in environments where conflict shows up on the surface, but often the conflict isn't created there. The question comes up like this: what if the conflict is deeper than the issues at work? What if it has something to do with something beyond the work site? That's an important question, because sometimes what you're seeing at work is not the root issue. It's the expression of something else. So let's slow this down. This is important. People don't walk into work as separate from the rest of their lives. They bring stress. They bring pressure. They bring relationships. They bring history. They bring all of it. And occasionally that shows up in how they communicate, how they react, and how they engage in conflict. So what do you do with that? Is it any of your business? It's outside of work. What do you do? First, recognize your role. You are a leader. You are not a therapist. That distinction matters. Your responsibility is not to resolve someone else's personal life. Your responsibility is to ensure that the behavior at work is appropriate, productive, and aligned with expectations. So instead of trying to diagnose the cause, stay grounded in what you can address: the thinking and the behavior. Trying to influence behavior without addressing the thinking path is someone like trying to resolve a computer problem without considering what is happening with the hard drive. For example, you might say, "Jane, I don't need to know what's going on outside the work site, but I do need us to be clear about what's happening in here and how we move forward. I would like to dig into the thought process, what the thought process is for you as this situation comes up. How do you approach it?" That keeps the conversation respectful and contained. Second, acknowledge without absorbing. If someone shares that something very important outside of work is affecting them, it's required and appropriate to acknowledge it. Something like, "Wow, that sounds like a lot to carry. I am sorry that is happening." Now, you can't say that if you don't have a relationship with the person. You've got to be sincere. But if Jane's coming in to work and she's carrying a lot, connect with her. "I am sorry that is happening." This doesn't make you a therapist or part of the problem. It allows you to connect without being part of their world. But you can't take ownership for it. You can't try to solve it. After you listen, sometimes you need to listen. And so when Jane, again, I'm really, really sorry that you're going through. And I'd like to have work be as supportive as possible. And I think that as I help you be clear about the expectations, that's going to give you success here, and that's going to lighten the load in other places. But let's bring the conversation back to what matters in the workplace. What do you need in order to function well here? That's a leadership question. Third, clarify expectations. Even when there are legitimate external pressures, expectations don't disappear. They may be adjusted temporarily. They may require support. At the end of the day, they still need to be defined. Clarity actually helps people who are under pressure. It reduces uncertainty. Now, fourth, let's consider support structures. Sometimes the right move is not more conversation, it's better support. That could be adjusting workload, temporary flexibility, directing someone to appropriate resources outside of what you can give directly yourself. Help them see that they don't carry this alone, yet it is their responsibility to use the systems that are in place to help them. Finally, watch for patterns. If behavior consistently falls outside of expectations, regardless of the reason, it needs to be addressed. Compassion and accountability are not opposites. They work together. Here's the key idea. You don't need to solve what's outside of work to improve what happens inside of it. Stay grounded in the thinking and the behavior. Acknowledge the human side. Maintain clarity about expectations. That's how leaders successfully navigate these situations without overstepping boundaries or avoiding important issues because they are not comfortable with awkward situations. In this series, we're looking at conflict in a way that is both practical and sustainable. If this is helpful, subscribe and continue with the series. Before we finish today, let me leave you with one thought. Leadership often shows up most clearly during difficult conversations. If that's something you face in your role, we've created a free guide called Influence Under Pressure, the Leader's Guide to Difficult Conversations. It walks through a practical approach to handling those high-stakes moments well. You can download the guide using the link in the description below.